Good to see you, everyone. My name is Robbie Howell, and I'd like to show you how to create an Enclave character. We will be using the instructions as they are written in the rule set to be released on screen right now before you. Let us go right down the list, beginning with choosing a class. I personally tend to be more of a social player, and therefore I would be picking a Wanderer. So what I'm going to do is on my little character sheet over here, I'm just going to fill out that I'm a Wanderer. We'll leave the name till later. Now I got to note down my 3 abilities: Fork in the Road, By the Wayside, and Familiar Face. Now, on your own character sheet, you can easily write down like little notes for yourself. Given that I created these classes, I don't necessarily need these, but to give you an idea, you could put something like finite uses, reminding yourself that when you activate By the Wayside, the ability only has finite uses before the property you infuse onto an item wears off, that sort of thing. What I mean when I say that will be revealed when I eventually do full breakdowns for each of these classes and put them on this channel. Now, second thing we are doing, that's 3 fingers. Second thing we are doing is we are generating our character's personality. The first thing we do is we take a look at the 2 traits that are correlated with the class's stats. All classes are affiliated with 2 of the 12 stats in Enclave. The Wanderer is double up luck, single up vitality. So what we do is we look at those 2 stats. We go to the personality trait list right here, and we see that luck correlates to carefree, and vitality correlates to indulgent. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to pick any of these personality traits to be our third. Now, this not only has implications for how your character behaves, obviously, but it will also impact your stats. So there's a couple different ways you could go about this, depending on what you wanted out of your character and your experience. I think that a really interesting combo with these 2 would be picking the will trait, self-control. Kind of a weird one to pair with what we have here, but I love a challenge, and I think that this could make for a really interesting and nuanced character. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to handle our stats. All stats in Enclave are scaled by pluses, and this is where we decide what pluses our character will have for their various stats. Remember those upticks next to the Wanderer's class, double up luck, single up vitality. We're going to do a really quick and easy 1 plus for each uptick, namely 1 for vitality and 2 for luck. Next, we're going to take a little uptick for whichever one we picked as our third personality trait, in this case, will. Lastly, I have 2 more pluses I can put wherever I like, though I cannot bring any given stat above 3. Given that, again, I tend to like playing more social characters, I think a good starting point will be Spirit. That'll give me some empathy insights. And I think I really want to try leaning more into will, because I think a will-based Wanderer would be really interesting. So I'm going to do double up will. This brings my total stat spread to single up vitality, single up spirit, double will, double luck, rest are baseline. But remember, in Enclave, a baseline stat is very, very usable. Next thing is we're going to look at gear. We have 3 pieces of default gear that we're going to look at in a second. And then in addition to these 3 pieces of default gear, I can pick a piece of elective gear. So let's take a look at what the Wanderer has for gear offerings. So the default we have a satchel, a walking stick, and then we have waypoints. Much like with abilities, I highly recommend taking some notes for yourself if you think you'll need them. For example, with waypoints, it's useful to note that you have a set of 6. And this way, when you're in game, you can literally make a little cross out and just list as you spend your waypoints or something like that, you know what I mean? So we're gonna put down that we have our waypoints set of 6. Now, among the elective gear, we can pick one of these 3 options. The fiddle is a more social tool. It's an instrument, of course, that will help improve the mood of people you're playing for, as well as boosting their replenishment, which is quite a useful support skill in game. The nostrum, which is a very weird item, it's like an unmarked potion that can heal people, but always comes with some weird downside. And then a map. And this is a magical map that redraws itself to your current location. Again, I'm going for a more social playstyle, so I'm going to pick a fiddle. All right, nice and easy. I should note before we move on that you can choose to forego your elective choice, so this fiddle. Instead, you could pick 2 common items. Now, common items are much, much weaker. You may notice that class gear all has like these interesting supernatural properties. Common items are not allowed to have those unless they're like literally useless without them, like a business card or something, in which case you can do like a weak magical property. But as an upside, you get to design your common items yourself, and you get 2 of them. So if I wanted to play a wanderer that had like a sword and shield, that's how I would get them. Now we're gonna move on to the hardest part, naming your damn character. We're gonna go with, yeah, I like that. Raveshkin. That's a cool name. Now, this name already is giving me a lot about how I might go about creating a background for this character, which conveniently is our final step of the process. So what we're going to do is we're going to detail our character's appearance and background. Enclave is a game that actually really rewards things like your appearance and background. Your background can be used to justify things you might know in game. Your appearance can really heavily sculpt your social interactions with people. So while these things aren't mandatory and you can actually define them in the middle of a mission while you are playing, it is definitely recommended that you have some sort of baseline for them, at least in mind, before you dive into your first session. So I've come to my appearance. Going off the name Raveshkin, that just felt kind of like venerable or ancient in some way to me. So here's the appearance I went with. A small old man with a spindly frame, bright white hair with a protruding widow's peak and a small pointy beard at the end of a long chin. Skin is shockingly well preserved for his age, save for well-worn smile wrinkles. Wears a pale blue poncho and high-heeled wooden clogs. So from a mechanical perspective, this appearance actually is going to do quite a lot of work for me. In general, people are not going to think that an older man is as much of a threat as a younger man, especially a small older man. His smile wrinkles is going to tend to make people think that he's more kindly and trustworthy. He might be. I don't know his actual play style just yet, but with his personality, carefree, indulgent, self-controlled, I could definitely play him as kind of like the kindly mentor sort of archetype. Now let's see if I can come up with a similarly compelling background. Okay, I think I have something decent here. When I create backgrounds, I like to leave myself a lot of room to maneuver. So not like forcing myself to go in a single direction, instead leaving enough ambiguity that I can kind of take it in whatever direction feels most appropriate. But you can take a different approach, of course, when you are creating your own character. So here's what I've come up with the background for Raveshkin. So he was a wealthy merchant at the head of a multi-city enterprise until one day he renounced his fortune, leaving it to his family and taking up a new life on the open road. Refuses to say why he did so and almost never brings it up. Many who knew him before assumed it was because of a psychotic break. He has traveled aimlessly for almost a decade since then, working odd jobs in exchange for room and board. This kind of sets up an interesting start to a potential character arc that could go in many different directions. Maybe he is just an intensely altruistic person who had like a come to Jesus moment and decided, I need to go find myself. Maybe he did have a psychotic break. Maybe it's something else entirely. But most importantly, this background gives me a rock solid basis to play the character. And something I always try to remind my players in Enclave is that the best character growth comes through organic interactions on mission rather than the stuff that you devise in your own free time before or after. So that's how you create an Enclave character. If you have any questions, please do feel free to leave them down below. What do you think of my guy, Raveshkin? And if there are any other topics you guys would like me to cover on this channel, please do let me know going forward. But until then, my name is Robbie Howell. Make sure to check out Enclave on Kickstarter, link in the description down below. And ciao for now.